All right, we're on weighted mean now on section 25.1. And so this gets a little bit more complicated and we use it to figure GPA, so I think it's an important concept. Sometimes you have a bunch of values that are listed more than one time, so multiple times, and then in this case we could compute a weighted mean. So we do a sum of the products and then we do a sum of the frequencies. And I'll show you that on the next slide. Okay, so we have to take each one of these into consideration. Basically, we are going to multiply the price times the number of them sold, and we're going to also add up how many of them were sold. So that would be our sum of frequencies, right? So our frequencies is going to be this number down here when we total the number sold. So just do a quick calculation to figure out how many were sold. And you'll see that it is 32. Okay. Then we're going to go through our chart and multiply each one of these times the number of hot tubs that were sold, right? This is a list of hot tubs. And then we're going to get our numbers out here, and we will also be adding those up. So we multiply first to figure out how many in this category or how much in this category. So this one is 21,000, and that's $21,000, right? That's how much was sold. This one's 48,500. And I'm just multiplying, simple multiplication for each line here. The next one is 53,100. And then the last one is 53,900. So once we have all of our totals, the amount for each category, then we total that up to get a total amount. So that is going to be the sum of products when we get this number. And it is going to be 176,500, right? Sum of products. And so the way this is written, like a fraction, right? The top of the fraction is divided by the bottom of the fraction. So I'm going to write that out, 176,500 divided by 32. And we get 5,515.63. And we're just going to leave that in that form and not round it at all. It's dollars and cents, right? So for this example, that would make the most sense, is to just leave it exact. All right, weighted mean. Okay. Here are the other applications for weighted mean, and it has to do with GPA, which is important since you're a college student that you would understand. Now, the numbers that you see here are some of the ones that come from our book, and at OTC we don't have B+, C+, D+. We just go with A, B, C, D. But it's okay to use some of those. I don't actually use any of them in this example, but we will, I think, on the next example. Okay, so here's how this works. When you're taking a number of credit hours, it's not just worth 4 hours, right? It's going to be 4 hours times the grade you made on it, for that 4 hours. Okay, so if you make a B in biology, B's are worth 3 points. And I like to write this out with the point O, right, times 3.0. So you can tell 4 is the number of credit hours, and a B's worth 3.0 points per credit hour. So for each credit hour, you get 3 points. So for that one, we're going to have 12 points. Now, C's, of course, are not worth as much. A C is worth 2 points. And I'm going to write that as 2.0 so that we know where that came from. And so a C would be worth 4 points. A 2-credit hour class awards you 4 points at the end of the semester towards your GPA, if that makes any sense. And notice I put the A in the business math here. So A's are worth 4 points each, right, for each credit hour. So every credit hour earns 4 points. So for a 3-credit hour class and you made an A, you get 12 points. And then on the last one, a D, D's are not so good. We're multiplying that by just 1. So we only get 1 point per credit hour for that. So we end up with 3. Okay, so once again, we need the sum of the products, and that would be our, right, this is going to be the sum of the products, right, because we multiplied. And then the frequencies will be down here when we add those together, right? So we have 4, 2, 3, and 3, which gives us 12 credit hours. And that's our frequency, the sum of the frequencies, right? And then we're going to add up. So we're going to add the 12, the 4, the 12, and the 3. And we're going to divide that by 12 because we were taking 12 credit hours during that semester. And so we get, when we add those together, we get 31. We're dividing 31 by 12. And we round this to the hundredths place. It tells us that right there. So we're going to round this to 2.58, and that is our GPA. So 31 is your total, right? That's when I added up the sum of the sum of my products. I guess I shouldn't say the sum of the products right there because that's the 31, but we're going to add these up, right? The 12, 4, 12, and 3, and that's how we figure our GPA. Now on the next slide, it says, suppose the student in the previous example, come on, don't be weird here to me. Okay, for some reason it's going to stay blurry. I'm trying to get it not to be blurry. Hopefully you can read this. Suppose the student in the previous example had made an A rather than a D in world history. Okay, so if we go back to our totals on the other slide, if I could go back, our totals on the other slide, then we can see in world history, instead of a 3, we're going to keep the 12, the 4, and the 12, and then we're going to change the 3. It was a 3 credit hour, so we're going to have 12. Okay, it looks like this is not going to work. Okay, so I had to get out of this and do my special process, so it's kind of messy here, where I take it off and on, and I don't know. Anyway, so we're taking the 12, the 4, and the 12, and then instead of just adding 3 points, we get to add 3 credit hours times 4.0, so that's going to change our total significantly. And then remember, we're dividing by 12. So now when we add these up, we're going to get a new total of 40 credit hours, or 40 points basically, right? 40 points for the grades we made. And then we take the 40 and divide it by 12, and our new GPA is 3.33. So remember on the previous slide, it was 2.58. And now it is 3.33 GPA. Remember to always round to the hundredths place on these. And that makes a significant difference from 2.58 to 3.33. All right, here's another example. Okay, this time I threw in a C+, so we could use some of the ones from the chart there. So physics is a 4 credit hour class, and this person made a C+. So a C+ is worth 2.5 points per credit hour. So when we multiply those, we get 10. And then an A in calculus, that's a nice grade to make in calculus. So in calculus, an A is worth 4.0. So you get 20 points for that class because it's 5 credit hours, and that can make such a huge difference. Humanities, you made a D. Somebody made a D anyway. And that's just 3 points. So you can see, oh, whoa, that's not very good. And then an A in Spanish. So a 4.0, and that is 12. Okay, so when you add up the number of credit hours for that semester, it's 15. When we add the number of points we have earned based on our grades and our number of credit hours, then we will divide it by 15. So when you add those, it's 45 divided by 15, and that is equal to exactly 3.00. Now this is one of those rounding things. The 00 needs to be there to show we are rounding to the hundredths place, and so it's important to have that there. Okay, and then what if we change something here? Suppose the student in the previous example had made a B rather than a C+ in physics and a B rather than a D in humanities. Okay, so let's go back to this. We're making a B in both of the classes that we made below, the A's in the other classes. So we get to keep the 20 and the 12. Okay, so we'll have the 20 plus the 12. But we get to have new numbers for the physics grade. So the physics was 4 hours, and since we're making a B now, we're going to do 4 times 3.0. And then also in humanities, was a 3 credit hour class, which is a standard thing. So 3 credit hours times our B, and we're still dividing by 15. Okay, so now we're going to have the 20 plus the 12, and then we're going to add a 12 and a 9. So when we add all those up, we get 53, but remember that's going to be a 12 and that's going to be a 9. We're dividing by 15. And so instead of making a 3.00 for our GPA, it's 3.53 GPA, so that raised it nicely. I thought this was funny, so I left it on here for you guys to see too. And that is the end then of weighted mean. Now, you know that there are calculators. Computers have computer programs to figure out your GPA. This would just be a 1 semester calculation, and then for the next semester you would have to add all of those, so you'd have a new total and a new number of credit hours, so it would get pretty complicated. But you could figure your GPA for 1 semester pretty easily. So make sure you practice weighted mean.